High in the wilderness there lies a mountain known among locals as Death Mountain. Many have tried to conquer it, but only a few returned. The rest were lost to its icy cliffs and merciless storms. For David, this was not just a mountain, it was a challenge, a test of courage, and the dream of a lifetime. He believed he was prepared for anything the mountain could throw at him. But the mountain had other plans. What started as a climb would soon become a fight for survival, a battle between man and nature itself. The morning was cold, the air thin as David tightened the straps of his backpack. Before him, the jagged peak of Death Mountain pierced the sky, its white summit hidden in drifting clouds. He felt both excitement and unease. Locals had warned him that mountain doesn't forgive mistakes, but David believed in his preparation. Ropes, climbing gear, food, and sheer determination. He took his first steps onto the icy path. The crunch of snow under his boots echoed in the silence. Each breath came harder in the thin air, yet his eyes stayed locked on the towering cliffs above. The climb had begun. As David climbed higher, the weather shifted. Dark clouds rolled across the sky and a cold wind cut through his jacket. The mountain was already showing its true nature. The narrow path twisted along the cliff's edge. One wrong step would send him plunging into the abyss below. David slowed his pace, his heart pounding, his hands gripping the icy rocks. He looked down for a moment. Endless white stretched beneath him, a dizzying drop that made his stomach turn. He whispered to himself, "Stay focused, one step at a time." The mountain roared with sudden thunder, and snowflakes began to fall, carried by the fierce wind. David pulled his hood tighter, realizing the storm was arriving faster than he expected. His path became slippery. Each step sank into the fresh snow, his boots sliding dangerously close to the edge. He fought to keep his balance, every nerve in his body on high alert. The howling wind carried strange echoes across the cliffs, as if the mountain itself was warning him to turn back. But David clenched his jaw and pressed forward, determined not to give in. The storm thickened, turning the world white. David's vision blurred as snow whipped against his face. His breath froze in the air, and the silence of the mountain was broken only by the furious wind. Suddenly, his foot slipped. The ground crumbled beneath him, sending rocks tumbling down the cliffside. He dropped to his knees, grabbing a jagged stone. With frozen fingers, his heart pounding in terror. For a moment, he hung on the edge of disaster. One wrong move and the mountain would claim him forever. Gasping for air, David pulled himself back up, shaken but still alive. David trudged forward, each step heavier than the last. His boots sank deep into the snow, pulling at his strength. The mountain stretched endlessly before him, a wall of white that seemed impossible to conquer. His stomach grew painfully. The last odd piece of food was gone hours ago. His lips cracked from dryness, and his water supply had frozen solid in the bottle. Hunger and thirst clawed at his body, making his vision blur. Yet something inside him refused to give in. "One more step, just one more," he whispered to himself. With sheer willpower, he pushed forward, knowing that stopping now meant certain death. The mountain path narrowed, twisting along the edge of a sheer drop. One misstep, and David would plunge hundreds of meters into the icy abyss below. The wind howled louder here, almost as if it was trying to push him off. His boots slid slightly on the frozen ground, sending a rush of fear through his body. He pressed himself against the icy wall, breathing fast. The cliff beside him seemed to whisper of death, waiting for him to falter. Step by step, he moved forward, refusing to look down. His heart pounded like a drum, every beat echoing in his ears. At that moment, courage was not the absence of fear, it was walking through it. The wind grew colder, slicing through his clothes like knives. Frost formed on his eyelashes, and every breath turned into a cloud of white mist. Survival now meant fighting not only the mountain, but the freezing air itself. He found a narrow ledge where he could rest his body. His fingers, stiff and numb, struggled to grip the rocks. For the first time, he questioned if he had the strength to keep going, or if the mountain would claim him. Closing his eyes, he remembered why. He started this climb, not for glory, not for pride, but to prove to himself that he could conquer his own fears. That thought gave him a spark of strength to rise once more. The mountain path grew steeper, each step demanding more strength than the last. His breath came in short bursts, echoing against the silent cliffs. The higher he climbed, the more the air thinned, making every movement a battle. Suddenly, loose rocks crumbled under his boots. His body slipped, dangling over the edge. For a terrifying moment, he saw nothing but the abyss below. His heart beat louder than the roaring wind. With a desperate cry, he slammed his dice axe into the rock, holding on for dear life. His arms shook violently, but the tool saved him from falling into darkness. The mountain had tested him, and he had survived one more trial. Exhausted but determined, he pulled himself back onto the narrow trail. Every muscle burned, but he refused to stop. The mountain loomed higher above, silent and merciless, as if daring him to continue. The weather turned cruel. Snowflakes whipped across his face, stinging his skin like tiny needles. The wind howled through the cliffs, and the world around him blurred into white chaos. He bent low, shielding his eyes with one arm while gripping his axe with the other. Step by step, he fought through the storm. The mountain was no longer just stone. It was alive, and it wanted to break him. Night was falling fast. Darkness crept over the peaks, and the trail ahead vanished into shadows. He had no fire, no tent, only his will to survive against the mountain's freezing grip. He found a shallow cave carved into the rock. Crawling inside, he wrapped his arms around himself, shivering violently. The silence was heavy, broken only by the sound of his ragged breathing. As the mountain storm raged outside, he pressed his forehead to the stone. He whispered to himself a single promise: I will not die here. When dawn broke, the storm had eased. Weak sunlight filtered into the cave, painting the snow in pale gold. Exhausted, he forced himself to stand, every muscle aching from the cold night. Step by step, he stumbled forward, his boots crunching on frozen ground. The mountain was still merciless, but he carried with him a flicker of hope that hadn't been there the night before. Far below in the distance, he finally spotted what looked like smoke rising. Civilization, a sign that he might not be alone in this wilderness. Summoning the last of his strength, he dragged himself down the mountain. Each step was a battle, but the sight of smoke kept him moving, pulling him away from the grip of death. Hours later, he stumbled into a small cabin where a group of hunters rushed to help him. Their shocked faces told him just how close he had been to the edge. Against all odds, he had survived the mountain that claimed so many lives. His story would not be one of tragedy, but of unyielding determination and hope.